So network, because people are great libraries of information and resources. Be curious with these individuals. Ask lots of questions. People love to talk about themselves. Ask lots of questions because they are libraries, they are resources. Respect the fact that a network is going to be one of your greatest things that you accomplish as you grow as a professional through your careers. And you're going to lean on that network.
From Ranjay's couch in Charlotte, North Carolina to your couch, somewhere in the world, this is the weekly Midday with Ranjay, the afternoon show, with your host, Ranjay Sarna.
Good afternoon. Hello, welcome, and namaste to the last episode of Midday with Ranjay, Season 1, if I may call it so. We have met great personality over the course of past 8 weeks and learned a great deal from each one of them. For my season finale, I have a special guest. My guest for this afternoon is Mr. Kevin Brungardt. Kevin is the former CEO of Round Point Mortgage, a wholly owned subsidiary by Freedom Mortgage Corporation. Kevin has over 20 years of board executive leadership experience managing major functions of the mortgage businesses at top 5 institutions, including international banks and Fannie Mae. Prior to joining Round Point, he served as managing director for Citi Mortgage, where he was head of national fulfillment and operations, managing multiple mortgage functions domestically and abroad. He served as vice president for Fannie Mae for its national servicing organization, overseeing the largest counterparties representing over $1 trillion of Fannie Mae's service loan portfolio and related credit risk position. In that role, he also worked extensively with US Treasury and various US agencies in developing various programs during the housing crisis. Prior to Fannie Mae, Mr. Brungardt served as managing director for GMAC RFC, responsible for special servicing, the Home Ownership Preservation Center, analytics, strategy, and secondary marketing. Mr. Brungardt is a graduate of the Stanford Executive Program and has a MS in Economics from the University of Texas at Dallas and a BBA in Finance from the University of North Texas. In the year 2018, Kevin was named as the most admired CEO and top leader under the large company category by the prestigious Charlotte Business Journal. I'm also aware that recently he achieved his personal goals of visiting all the 50 states in the USA before he turns 50. Ladies and gentlemen, a leader par excellence, please welcome Mr. Kevin Brungardt. Let's bring him in. Kevin, good afternoon. How are you?
Good afternoon. I'm doing well, my friend. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for asking. And thank you so much for accepting this invitation to be part of Midday with Ranjay. How has your day been so far?
Day's been okay, as far as pandemic days go, following the same routine. But yeah, it's been well. Everybody's well on my side, and hopefully they're well with you and your family as well. So
absolutely, absolutely. Well, Kevin, I was reading your introduction, and one thing which caught my attention was your passion or a goal that you created for yourself, and I think you achieved it last year, visiting all the 50 states before you turned 50. And I was personally following it up so closely. How did it all start?
Great question. I always thought it was very important. I think a lot of people get outwardly focused and they want to go explore the world before they necessarily visit all that the United States has to offer. So I made it part of my bucket list a few years back that I wanted to make sure that I visited all 50 states and really experienced those 50 states. So happy to report, and I know you saw it, that I was able to complete that last year with my final leg through North and South Dakota. And I will tell everybody that there is so much to visit, so much to see. You've got so much within the United States, whether you want to see the mountains, the sea, the forests, the canyons. There's just so much to see that I think that should be on everybody's bucket list. But again, that's my personal bias. I actually went out and started researching it online and found out that very few people have actually seen all 50 states.
Interesting. Well, Kevin, As you know, this show is all about trying to understand the person behind the great professional that you are. And without further ado, let me move to my first segment, which I call How I Got Where I'm At. Now, in this segment, I would really, not only me, but I think the viewers watching all over the globe, I have viewers in India, US, in South America, in Africa, they'll be really interested to know how Kevin started his journey and how has been the journey so far.
Okay. Well, I'm flattered that people would want to understand this journey because, trust me, it's no more special than anybody's journey, and I think that that's important for the viewership to understand that anybody can make this journey. Part of it is you've got to start out with what your definition of success is going to be. Define that objective of what you want success to be, because it's not the same for every individual. I, for some reason, being born and raised in Hays, Kansas, which is in the central western part of Kansas, for some reason I came up with the idea that I really wanted to be involved with organizations. I wanted to lead organizations. So I started out there. I went to college. My undergraduate was University of North Texas. I started out with a finance major. I worked my way through school at Ross Dress for Less. Thank you, Ross Dress for Less. They were very flexible. They let me work weekends and holidays to accommodate my school schedule. I also worked a second job, basically watching the racquetball courts at the university. So very thankful for those institutions that had that part-time work available for me. But once I graduated University of North Texas, like every student that graduates, you go do a couple of different kind of things. At first, I wanted to be a stockbroker, so I went and got my Series 7, my Series 63, my Group 1 Life licenses. Figured out very rapidly I didn't want to do that. I went into the insurance business. I sat out in East Texas, and I did liability claims work. But then, quite frankly, what happened was when I was out in East Texas, my mother took my resume. Back in those days, believe it or not, you had hard copies of resumes. You'd go to print shops and you had 50 to 100 resumes that were done. My mother actually saw something in the classifieds. That's another foreign things these days, right? That you actually look through the newspaper in the classified, and then you mailed your resume with a cover letter in. My mother actually got me into the mortgage banking business. So everyone that goes out there and views this, my objective was to run an organization, to build things, but my mother actually steered me into this sector and got me into the mortgage business. At that point in time, I was with Capstead Mortgage, which was an offshoot of Lomas. We got acquired by GMAC RFC. I became a managing director running secondary marketing, running the homeownership preservation center, which is a fancy word for servicing. After that, I got recruited by Fannie Mae during the Great Recession. Worked quite a bit, with Fannie Mae, with U.S. Treasury. I was an officer of Fannie Mae. Then I was managing director for Citibank, actually Citi Mortgage. With Citi, I ran national fulfillment and operations for the then CEO Sanjeev Das, a very dear friend who gave me a great opportunity. And from that point, I launched my career into becoming the CEO of Round Point for the Tavistock Group, which is the private equity firm behind Round Point. So until very recently, for the last 10 years, I was a board member and the CEO of Round Point. What I would say was, I think everybody is limitless. Some of the things that guided me down my path was, I've got an insatiable appetite to learn. I'm very curious by nature. And I think everybody is limitless. I think you just have to stoke that curiosity and feed it. Another thing was, I never set artificial limitations around myself. If I go through my path and my journey, I moved quite a bit. And a lot of people want to stay geographically constrained. And I'd always say, I want no artificial constraints. There's enough forces out there working against you. I didn't want any artificial constraints. So movement and mobility was one of the things that was a strong suit for me. So I went from Kansas to Texas to California to Minnesota to DC, back to Texas to Carolina, back to Texas, back to Carolina. So that was one of the things that I think you should never put any artificial artificial constraints. And you should always continue to move forward. Keep moving forward. Keep seeking out those disciplines. Keep seeking out those networks and relationships that are going to continue to advance and grow and release your creativity, your imaginations, your energies, your talents. And so there's no special recipe there. And then the final thing I'll say is you really have to embrace work, because a common thread among all the successful people that I know is they work really hard. They're no more special than anybody else. Everybody's smart. Everybody has great, ability to create, to learn, to grow. We really truly are limitless, and that's something I'd always tell the folks at Round Point. We are limitless. You have this ability in you and this untapped potential that you just don't even realize. But as people, we really are limitless. You just got to work really hard. And so, I don't have any, secret sauce, any secret recipe, but I really am. I'm curious. I do believe on continuing to tap that inner energy. And, I fancy myself as somebody who really enjoys working and really enjoys creating the next thing and embracing the next thing.
Well, great answer, Kevin. What a journey. And two things. A big thank you to your mom. And second, I think you made the most of all the opportunity that you got. So that's been, I think, for me, is the secret sauce, making the most of all the opportunity that you get. Well, moving on, which is my second segment, where my second segment is called Three Questions to Kevin Brungardt. And
Okay.
my first question to Kevin would be, what do you wish you had known when you started out?
Yeah, and I've been asked that quite a bit, and this is the answer that I give 95% of the time, to be fair. And I'm sure I come up with something else the other 5%. But I always tell folks early on in their journey, network, network, network. People are the greatest natural resource that we have, from a variety of viewpoints or dimensions. They like I used to say at Round Point, people are our greatest asset. And they really are the greatest asset. And if you just take the time, you should get to understand the people not only around you when you're working in a certain division or area within an organization. You should network across the entire company. You should network laterally. You should network down. You should network up. And then with all the platforms that are available out there, get involved. With as much time as people spent on their social networking, they should spend at least an equal amount of time on their professional networking. There are so many platforms available to do that. This being one of them, right? Feel free, whoever sees this, if they want to reach out and connect with me via LinkedIn, do it. I'm happy to connect. And so network, because people are great libraries of information and resources. Be curious with these individuals. Ask lots of questions. People love to talk about themselves. Ask lots of questions because they are libraries, they are resources. So as a young professional, young Kevin, I wish I would have networked more in my 20s. I really started networking a lot in my 30s and 40s and have built up a vast network, and that is one of my greatest resources because I believe the underlying thing, which is people, is really the greatest asset that we have.
Great answer, Kevin, there. And I can vouch for networking because moving from a different country, and when I actually came here in 2016, I just knew few people that I can count on my right hand. And whatever that I have achieved limited success would be just based on networking. And it's funny that the way that you and I met, that was through a networking event as well. So I can totally understand the importance of networking here. Moving on to my second question, Kevin. Amidst all the mayhem, the confusion, the pandemic, I'm sure there are few things that we are thankful about. So my question to you, Kevin, would be, what are those things that you are thankful in 2020?
Well, I think the obvious ones are I'm thankful for my my loved ones, my family's health, the happiness, all the gifts and blessings. I'm thankful that my immediate friends and family and loved ones, I haven't had a tragedy associated with COVID. Had plenty of individuals that I know that have been affected, and it's very serious. But I'm very thankful that I haven't had any tragedies. So I'm thankful for that. But beyond,
And Kevin, my last question to you would be, according to you, what are some of the biggest challenges that employers are facing today?
I think when we come out of this, I think we're going to see a very high growth economy. I think you're going to, and it's supported by a number of macroeconomic factors that I'm not going to go into here because I don't think that's necessarily the essence of it. But I see a lot of positivity pointing in the direction that we are going to see a high growth in the United States. So from a people perspective, I think if there was a war for talent prior to the pandemic, I think that war just heated up. I think people are going to be sought after. Talented people are going to have their choices. And I think here's what organizations are really going to face. They're going to face the problem of keeping people in their positions for an appropriate amount of time to get the payback for the recruiting costs and the learning and development and training and the leadership development that they take these people through. And what I mean by that is, I think it's very easy when employees all aggregate at a central location to feel like you're part of that corporate team. You see the corporate mantras, you park in the parking lot, you go eat lunch with your friends, you have water cooler chat with people that are all wearing the same corporate jersey, and you have a reinforcement of what team you belong to, your culture, the corporate mantras, etc. I think in the new world, and this is what I experienced, it was great because I was so impressed with our people and our technology that we didn't miss a beat. You could have made the argument in some sections we were actually more productive and definitely more efficient working from home, yeah, especially when you got into transactional related functions. But the problem is these folks are sitting at home and they're not necessarily affiliated with the organizations like they once were. So I think another thing that folks are going to have to do, they're really going to have to amp up their talent and the recruiting efforts, but they're also going to have to really amp up the employee engagement efforts. And they're also going to have to amp up the cultural awareness. Somehow we're going to have to make people that are all working, remotely from home feel like they are part of the organization, attached to the organization, still want to make a long journey with that organization and a career out of that organization. So, I think that's going to be a real challenge for companies.
I don't think there can be a perfect answer to this question. Nicely put, Kevin. Now, moving on to my last segment, which is the fun part where I can put you on the spotlight.
All right.
Well, I like to call it my rapid fire. And
let me take a drink, Ranjay, of my
liquor
here so I can answer these things appropriately.
Yeah, you need that drink. I promise you, my questions, you need that drink. Well, Kevin, there are no right answers or wrong answers, but it's all about trying to understand you a little bit more.
Okay.
Are you ready?
I'm sure. I am.
All right. What's your rule number one, Kevin?
Rule number one. My rule number one. I've never thought about that before. All right, ask me that one again, Ranjay.
Absolutely.
Let's.
No, we can revisit this again.
Okay.
All right.
Good.
You can have a dinner party with any 4 people in the world. Who's on your invite list?
Any 4 people in the world. Okay, so it'd have to be a mixture of some political, some financial, and some movie star power. So
you wanna name some?
I would definitely want President Obama on that list. I love reading his articles and his thoughts because he is so deep and so thoughtful. I would want Bono from U2 on that list because that is one of my favorite groups. Probably want to, hang out with Mick Jagger as well from the Rolling Stones. A little bit. And then, maybe we, put Michael Jordan or LeBron or somebody like that. I'd like to, also, chat with an athlete. I don't know that I've cornered all the different dimensions, but Certainly, I guess I would want, people from different disciplines, different dimensions, because I just think they have something so unique to bring to the dinner party.
That'll be quite a party, I tell you. My next question is, Kevin, what motivates you to get out of the bed in the morning?
I think people are motivated obviously by different things. There's love, live, leave a legacy, the forces that drive people. Those are some of the forces. I think the thing that motivates me the most is leave a legacy. I think we have a very short time on this earth. And I want to do something important. I want to leave a little bit of a legacy. I want to make it better, than I left it, and that really motivates me, and that's why I like to build teams, like to build companies, because I really want to leave a legacy.
That's such a great answer and very deep. If you were a hashtag, what would that hashtag be?
Hashtag energy.
Oh, wow. Great. If you were a website, what would be your URL?
www.samuelinsavannah.com. Those are my two children and my treasures.
Awesome. And back to the question number one. What's your rule number one?
I think rule number one is be kind, and I stole that from Bob Iger's book. I really respect what he did with Disney, and it's a fantastic read. And he said something in there, and I always try to draw out of all the data that I try to absorb. I always try to draw a principle or two out of that. And this is a very strong individual which built an amazing organization. And one of his first rules was be kind. And I think that is so important in this day and age, is to be kind. And that's not a weakness, and that doesn't mean be fair, and that doesn't mean don't do the tough things or avoid the tough actions that need to be taken. But people need to execute and accentuate kindness. And I think that that's really lacking in this world, because kindness stems into a bunch of different things like thoughtfulness and respect, etc. But rule number one is be kind.
Wow. Great answer, Kevin. Now, Kevin, those were my rounds, those were my questions, and I think there couldn't be a great way to finish this season, if I may call it. And I'll tell you what, on a personal ground, every time I talk to you, every time I meet you, I think my knowledge base increases a notch higher. I would honestly pay to listen to your advice and to your suggestions. It's amazing every time I talk to you. Thank you so much for taking our time, and I just can't be thrilled and happy that you accepted this invitation. And I hope to meet you very soon in the near future.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. You're very kind in all those words. So appreciate you so much, and appreciate that you're actually the individual that networked with me to create that friendship about a year or so ago. So stay well, my friend. I appreciate all you do, and I look forward to seeing this and seeing your future episodes. So
Sure.
thanks so.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, that was Mr. Kevin Brungardt. Great insights about things that affects you and me on a regular basis. Great personality and a leader that I admire a lot. On the personal front, for the last 8 to 9 weeks has been a great journey for me and Midday with Ranjay. I was fortunate enough to meet individual people and got a chance to interview them and learn few things from each one of them. I also want to take this opportunity to thank you for all the love and the support that you have shown towards this show. I want to wish you season greetings, Merry Christmas, and Happy New Year in advance. Until we meet next, remember, stay safe, stay smart, and have a great rest of the day.